Talk to me. WSRadio.com.
Welcome to Big Bet, the sports wagering show from coast to coast and worldwide, highlighting the matchups, betting lines, and totals, and all you need to make the right decision. It's Big Bet, focusing our attention on the winning bet. Live from San Diego, it's Big Bet. We welcome you on a Saturday morning. We are live in San Diego, and you are out there somewhere in cyberspace, and we're all joined here on the WS Radio Network, along with Tommy D, Bob Hutton, Matty B. I'm Felix Taverna, live from San Diego. We are here every Saturday and Sunday morning talking about college and professional football. We have a number of games on slate we'll talk about. If you've been any part of the show the last couple of weeks, well, you know Bob Hutton has been in fuego. He goes 5-0 on Sunday here in the NFL, and he had a tremendous Saturday of college football a week ago. So stay tuned, get connected, get your pens and paper out. A lot of games to talk about. Inside the studio, we go to kick off the radio program. My man, Tommy D.
Yeah, good morning, Felix. Good to have everybody here on this Saturday. College football, always a great time of the year. Still figuring it out. Week 4, some better matchups this week. Got to see some football last night. Overall, exciting, time for sports, and then a good NFL, card tomorrow. We'll get into that tomorrow. But today, NCAA football, a couple big matchups on the card. I think the big one probably a lot of people are talking about is Michigan-Wisconsin. That's an early game that's going to be kicking off at 9 a.m. Wisconsin, is this their year? They're going to be going back for some revenge after last year, Felix. Michigan just gave them a beat down, and this Wisconsin team looks stout. They have not given up 1 point. They've outscored their opponents 110-0 in the first 2 games they played. Yeah, the opponents were pretty weak, but Michigan barely getting by Army last week. If I'm that Wisconsin coach, I'm getting the playbook from last week on Army because they've got a fantastic rusher on Wisconsin. This guy is a monster. Jonathan Taylor, he leads the nation with 8 touchdowns, 151 yards from scrimmage. If I was Wisconsin, just run the ball. Run. Take a play out of Army's book and get this win at home because you need it.
Yeah, without any doubt about that, Wisconsin looks like the real deal. I mean, they jumped on South Florida in the week number 1. They just blitzed them, and blitzed them on the scoreboard. A couple other things that we're going to talk about. The Major League Baseball wild card races are heating up. In the American League, 3 teams vying for 2 spots. The National League, the Phillies, the Cubs, a little trouble right now. We've got about 11, 12 games left on the regular season of the 162. This is when it gets really interesting. I think the Phillies went down last night to the Cleveland Indians, if I stand correct, and that is not good for the city of brotherly love.
Yeah, you're right. The Cubs did lose yesterday. They lost to the Cardinals, though. The Indians beat the Phillies. But, yeah, these matchups, this is the time to tune into baseball, honestly, Felix. If you're going to start watching baseball, it's a long season. This is the time to watch it because some of these matchups, these teams need to win.
You know who's not watching baseball is our man Bob Hutton. Hut on a Saturday morning. He's live with us on Big Bet. We welcome you on this Saturday morning. Get on, get in, and pay attention. Hi, the top of the morning. How you doing, my friend?
Hey, good morning, and you're absolutely right. I'm not watching any baseball.
Yeah, I know that.
You couldn't be more. You couldn't be more correct.
Yeah,
so,
it's like watching paint dry.
I will when it's the postseason, but there's too many things going on in college football right now that have just got my attention, and I like to watch and get that view as far as my eye instead of just stats the whole time. So I just I'm kind of glued into what's going on the gridiron.
All right, I think we got Matty B online here too, checking in from Big Easy. Matty B, you there, my man?
Good morning, Felix. Tommy, did you really tout Wisconsin scoring 110 points on South Florida and Central Michigan? I mean, come on. They haven't even played a Power 5 team yet.
Hey, still 0 points. Hey, this is NCAA football. When you hold teams to 0 points, Matty B, you got to respect them. And their offense looks, the best it's been in a while. I like Wisconsin today, but yeah, Matty B, they played crappy teams. I'm not saying they played top-level teams, but 110-0, you outscore two teams. It doesn't matter who you're playing.
And
that's respectable.
And remember, Matty B, Wisconsin did not have a quarterback last year. Remember, we talked about that all year long. But
yeah, Hornibrook was terrible. They got one now. Jack Cohen knows how to throw the ball. You got a Heisman candidate in Jonathan Taylor, and their defense is healthy because last year that defense was really, really banged up, missing a lot of players from the years before. That's what, when you think Wisconsin, you think defense, you think running the ball, and that's what they're back to. That's what they are this year. They're healthy, and it shows, but they haven't been tested yet. They haven't played a real team yet. South Florida is not the South Florida from a few years ago. Central Michigan is not the Central Michigan from a few years ago. So now we're going to see what they really are when they get a real team in the Michigan Wolverines.
Well, we're going to really see how Bob Hutton, because this is Bob Hutton's top game of the weekend. This is the game that he focused in early on. Michigan, Wisconsin 3.5 and 44.5. Hut, you take it away. You bring the analysis to our listening audience.
Well, Tommy and Maddie already brought up some numbers that came to light for me. But on the eye test, when they played South Florida the first week, and South Florida is not a talentless team. They came into that game, and Wisconsin was favored by 13.5. The number went down to 11.5 that day, and Wisconsin physically manhandled them. I mean, they just up front, the defensive line just manhandled them. South Florida, which usually can put points on the board, couldn't even get a first down. This Wisconsin team they're real. I know that 110-0, and you're questioning who they've played. Well, then you got to look on the other side of the ball. Who's Michigan played? I mean, they should have got beat by Army, and Army is a very well-coached team and very disciplined. But Michigan gets the ball in the red zone. They can't score. Their quarterback looks mediocre at best. They've turned the ball over. Their kicking game is suspect. They're playing at Camp Randall today, which is a huge advantage for Wisconsin. Wisconsin has probably one of the top two running backs in the country in Jonathan Taylor. He averages 6.8 yards a carry. They get an upgrade in quarterback. Cohn is 10 times the quarterback that Hornibrook. Hornibrook was, last year to watch him play was painful because I don't think he could break wind if he threw a pass. I mean, he had such a weak arm. They have 6 starters back on defense, but the way they physically abuse people, I don't see Michigan hanging with them today. I just think that Wisconsin is by far a more talented, more physical football team, and they're going to run the ball down their throat.
Yeah, Bob, I agree with you. On top of the show, I said take a page out of Army's playbook. All you got to do is watch last week and see what they did. And I think Wisconsin's got, like a supreme running back there, like you said. I think, Michigan's going to be in real trouble today against Wisconsin.
Matty B, what do you think about this game?
Skill on the outside.
I think Tommy needs to calm down a little bit. Army runs a gimmicky offense. The way they run the ball, this is a gimmick that they do. And look what they did last year against Oklahoma. They gave the Sooners everything they could handle, and Army ran the table outside of that. So you are not giving Army the respect they deserve, number one. Number two, this is a normal offense that Wisconsin runs, which Michigan will be much better prepared to defend against. You are not going to be throwing gimmicks at them with Wisconsin. They're going to run the ball right down your throat, or try to. Michigan has the athletes, they have the talent, and Jonathan Taylor has never scored a touchdown against Michigan, just FYI. Michigan hasn't won at Camp Randall since 2001. That is a very long time for the Michigan Wolverines, although this is only the 5th time they've played at Camp Randall since 2001, which is very odd for a rivalry of this magnitude in the Big Ten. Michigan is going to be prepared for this game. Yes, they've had issues. Shea has not been able to hold the ball for very well, and Michigan fans have been booing him. They want to see McCaffrey. McCaffrey's a little bit banged up right now. So it's going to be Shea who's going to be handling that ball for you. They need to be able to hold on to the ball better because they definitely had turnover issues. You've got Zach Charbonnet, who's a heck of a running back who is supposedly healthy. There were some issues all week. They were talking about him, whether he was healthy or not. Apparently he is. He is a talented running back. They have talented wide receivers. Their secondary is better than advertised. They have a very, very good defense that will keep them in this ball game. Jack Cohn is going to have to throw the ball. Yes, he has looked very good so far, but he hasn't played a really good defense yet. Michigan has a very good defense. This is going to be a much better game than you guys are touting it to not be.
All right, Bob Hutton. Wisconsin opened up in 2.5. The total just stays right around there. It has gone to 3.5, as I mentioned, and 44.5, I do believe I had seen here as I scroll down and refresh everything on this Saturday. This is going to be a high-scoring game, Hunt, or do you think that it'll be a black and blue type of game that both these teams will put everything on the field and play close-knit football?
I think the number's about right on the total, Felix. It's one of those things. It's the pace of the game, and if somebody opens up and gets up by 10 or 14 points, that could change quite a bit. But the other thing that I forgot to say earlier is the Badgers have some outside talent on the outside as far as offensively, and they can stretch the field probably better than they've been able to do in recent years because Cohn's got a better arm. I think the total's probably about right. I wouldn't feel comfortable playing under in here, though, to be honest with you, because I don't think Michigan's defense, they've lost a lot of guys to the NFL. I don't think they're the same team they were last year. And if you watched Michigan play last year, their defense was probably the number one ranked defense in the country until the last two games when they played Florida and Ohio State, and they got torched. So maybe some teams have uncovered some issues in Michigan and have exposed them for that. But I don't think this defense is the same defense that was out there last year.
All right, let me ask Matty B this. As Michigan didn't have a great quarterback last year. Have they found the quarterback for Harbaugh's system, Matty B?
No, I don't know. Honestly, I think that Dylan McCaffrey is the quarterback for Harbaugh's system, and he's been held back. And when they brought Shea in from Ole Miss, it kind of ended up holding McCaffrey back even more. He is a good quarterback, but I think that they're more electric offensively when McCaffrey is in. He can do a little bit more with his legs. But they went with the guy who was a little bit more seasoned, bringing him in over from Ole Miss, who's not a bad quarterback. He's had some yips so far this year with fumbling issues, and he's got to control that tonight because if Wisconsin has gets two more turnovers on Michigan than Michigan has, they're going to beat up Michigan. If Michigan has two more turnovers than Wisconsin's going to get beat up. It's going to be that kind of game where both defenses are really going to bring it well. And to be fair, Bob, that defense was not playing against Florida at the end of the year. There were a lot of guys that did not play for the Michigan defense that sat out that bowl game because it was meaningless. Ohio State, yeah, they beat the living crap out of Michigan last year. But this is still a very good defense, and they have been showing it so far. Their secondary is better than expected to be, and that front seven is still dangerous.
Tommy D, who won this game last year, Michigan, Wisconsin?
Michigan beat them bad. They beat them bad last year. That's why I think Wisconsin, if you read the reports, all the players are talking about last year. All the defense is saying last year. At home, they're going to come out ready to kill.
Hey, bro, we're ready for breakfast. And, remember where San Diegans start their breakfast. 15 locations of the Broken Yoke Cafe from downtown Mission Valley, East Lake, San Diego State. Del Mar, Pacific Beach, San Marcos, Escondido, Mira Mesa, 15 San Diego locations for Eggs Benedict and mimosas. Got some of the best Eggs Benedict I've had, so those 15 locations throughout San Diego, the Broken Yoke, since 1979. They're legendary as much as Bob Hutton is on this radio program. Remember that. Broken Yoke Cafe. You're going to love everything about it. Before, during, after the game, mimosas, breakfast down in Pacific Beach, down in your part of the neck of the woods. Tommy D, I know that you probably made a trip or two to the Broken Yoke. They've been there forever. Tommy D, I want to ask you in regard to this card today. we've been doing this a long time. We're doing horses, following this radio program. We'll do track talk and what have you. And we converse before coming into the studio, and we'll just, brain set and mindset, what have you. I want to ask you in regard to something that I've always asked you when we walk in. What game are you facing today? What game did really jumped off the page? When you looked at everything, put every your notes together, which game came off the page?
Well, one of them's University of Georgia, Notre Dame. I think that's a big game everybody's going to be keying in on. That's 5 o'clock today on CBS. Notre Dame, number 7, looking strong. Georgia, number 3. They're giving a lot of points here to Notre Dame, 14.5. I'm not quite sure about this. I'm kind of stuck on this one. I actually don't have an opinion, but I really want to hear the guys' opinions because this is a game everybody wants to know about. But 14.5 points, Notre Dame is looking strong this year. I know we always talk Notre Dame program, it's big, but, University of Georgia at home, 14.5 points. Is that too many points?
Well, good question. Now, Matty B, you set the game up, and then Bob Hutton's going to release who's going to win this game. What do you think about players on both sides? You do the analysis, Matty B, and then Bob Hutton's going to put the hammer down.
Well, the reason it's 14.5 is because Georgia's strength is running the ball, and Notre Dame's weakness is stopping the run. But I think they're being very disrespectful to the Fighting Irish. These two teams played last year in South Bend to a 1-point game. I think Ian Book, who hasn't been great to start this year, has to be great tonight if Notre Dame has any chance of pulling an upset, let alone covering the spread. I do think that Ian Book will have a better game than he's shown so far this year. He is the leader of this team. I think the defense will step up better than it has in the past. I understand Georgia is very talented at running the ball, and they still have Jake Fromm, who feels like he's been there for about a decade now. It's going to be tough sledding for the Fighting Irish in Athens, but I do think the spread is a little high just based on the talent that Notre Dame does bring to the table.
Interesting game. This is a big game for Brian Kelly at University of Notre Dame because Notre Dame needs to continue to show that moving forward approach that under Kelly they have been doing in recent years. Remember, it wasn't that many years ago when they were in the championship game against Alabama and were knocked out in the first 5 or 10 minutes of that game when Alabama just stomped on them. Bob Hutton, Notre Dame, Georgia, key game, could be the biggest game on the docket today as far as visuals go, with awareness, with customers wanting to be a part of this betting venue, whatever. Michigan, Wisconsin is big, but I kind of feel like Notre Dame and Georgia is going to be a little afternoon delight. How do you have it, Bob Hutton?
Well, I have, when I look at Notre Dame, they have 7 returning offensive players. Book leads the team. They lost 3 players on the offense of the NFL last year. I believe they'll average more than 30 this year on offense. On defense, they lose 3 of the top 5 tacklers, while they were allowing 18 points a game last year, but probably not to the strength of schedule that Georgia played. They have Virginia next week, which is probably not a look-ahead game for them. But Notre Dame's 0-2 in the series against Georgia. They got beat last year 17-10. Georgia's led by Jake Fromm and by Swift, which is their running back. Some feel they have the best offensive line in the country. They have 6 returning starters and prolific skill players on the outside. The defense has 6 guys back. They have a bye next week. And then they have, they've got their SEC play this year. So tough to beat them in Athens. That's a tough place to play. I think 14.5. I don't like the number. I think it's could be a little too high. I think Notre Dame has some athletes. But I really, when I went to this game, Felix, I love the over in this game. I think that they're gonna light up the scoreboard. I think the loss of defensive talent on both sides of the football and the fact that Fromm is so far this season, he's been lighting it up. And Notre Dame hasn't seen an offense like this yet. So, and I watched them play New Mexico last week. New Mexico moved the ball up and down the field. They just didn't get in the end zone very often. But if Georgia gets in the red zone against them, they're going to put up some big points against Notre Dame today.
Going to find out. We're going to find out exactly how it goes. Georgia in Notre Dame. I think it's going to be a real good football game. I said that I would
over 58, Felix.
It's now 59. And so I just checked it.
Okay.
So it just went from 59. That's what I wanted to share, that these numbers have been jumping up. I think Georgia opened up as 11.5-point favorite over Notre Dame, and now they have gone to 14.5 and 59. So the prognosticators believe that this could be a high-scoring game, as Bob Hutton just indicated. Tommy D, a little closer to home, I'm interested in talking about San Diego State and Utah State. Utah State comes into San Diego State tonight. And Bob Hutton, while Tommy D cues it up, I'm going to ask you, this game is 4.5 right now. Utah State's coming into San Diego State, undefeated San Diego State, I do believe, and they are 4.5-point underdogs, the total 54. Did this catch your eye, Hut?
It really didn't catch my eye because I've watched, San Diego State when they played UCLA. I think they won because, despite themselves, I think that you know what I think of UCLA. I just think they're horrible. And then Utah State is not as doesn't have the same talent level they had in the prior years. So this is kind of a weird game for me. But I've been watching the line movement on the game, Felix, and last night the total was 54. This morning is 52.5. So I think that the steam's moving to the under in this game, but the line still hung at 3.5 so far today. But I would look at the under if anything. But no, the game really didn't catch my eye.
Yeah, I took a look at it, Bob. Utah State, if I had to take anybody, San Diego State, I don't think is very good. I know they're undefeated, but I think the team is not very good. I think Utah State can win this game, come in and beat San Diego at home. But the game I want to talk was another late game that I want to ask you, Matty B, about. Washington State against a beat-up UCLA tonight. That's 7:30 on ESPN. That's minus 18.5 for Washington State. Is UCLA that bad?
Yes. Yes. They're that bad.
Yes and yes.
And
okay.
We know that they're terrible.
So would you give the points up here? Is that a bet that you would take, Bob?
State, he'll run it up. Pardon me?
Is that a bet you would take then? Minus 18.5 there?
Oh yeah, because he won't sit on a 14-point lead. This is he'll run the score up on him if he can. He likes to go ahead and Chip Kelly used to run the score up on people. So there might be a little bit of a hey, let me give it back to you what you used to do in the past, and they see. I think some of these coaches see Chip Kelly as kind of a handicap program right now, and they're going to. I think they'll try to embarrass him. That's my opinion.
I saw Washington State. Oh, they're playing Washington, not Washington State.
They're playing UCLA's playing Washington State.
Yeah.
Oh, they're all playing Washington State. Okay, I didn't put the state there. What's the coach of Washington State's name? The Leach?
Mike Leach.
Mike Leach.
Yeah, Mike Leach.
Yeah, Mike Leach. Mike Leach has, quietly built a nice little program up there. What are you laughing about, Matty B?
He's just one of the most entertaining coaches in all the sports. He's just a very entertaining guy. Will answer any ridiculous question a reporter throws at him. If you haven't seen it, listen to him break down the mascots of the Pac-12 that happened this week. It was a riot.
Yeah, doesn't he look like that country and western artist, Matty B?
I don't. Which one? I don't really listen to country, so I couldn't tell you.
He has he's a spitting image of somebody that's a major country and western music star. I'll figure it out here in a second when my brain starts going. Chip Kelly is in trouble for not only being 0-3, but Chip Kelly's in trouble because Dan Guerrero, the athletic director at UCLA, has decided that he'll retire at the end of this year. So guess who's the lame duck coach? And UCLA, they're begging you to come in to the games, okay? They're doing everything they can. You can bring your 10 lost relatives that you haven't seen since last Thanksgiving and bring them to the UCLA game for free. because it has been just a disaster up there in Westwood. And we're going to find out this could be, it wasn't long ago. But correct me if I'm wrong, okay? We talk about this for a long period of time. We talked about systems. And I think Matty B would know the most. In Chip Kelly's system at Oregon, when he was very successful in Oregon, it was always the main play of the quarterback that made his system go. What I've seen early on in 3 weeks that UCLA has no quarterback, Matty B, and that doesn't fit well for Chip Kelly's system. Do you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. And this is the problem UCLA has had for years now. They really have not had the guy, or if they had the guy got hurt, and they had to rely on backups. And the guys that they had in past before Chip Kelly came were not Chip Kelly kind of guys for running that offense, and now Chip Kelly's there, and he still doesn't have the guys yet for running the offense. You can find the guys as far as receivers or running backs to make them work, but when you are Chip Kelly and you run a certain style of offense that is involved with the RPOs really a lot, you need to have your guy at the helm. And yeah, it's only his second year, so I don't know how much we can throw on him not bringing in the guy yet. But like you said, with the AD on the way out, is the new AD going to have patience with Chip Kelly to give him his time to bring a guy in? That's one of the things you got to be careful of with college is that, these coaches need to have their guys. They're only going to have it for a short period of time anyway, but you need to have your guys coming in, and Chip Kelly just absolutely has not had it yet at quarterback.
I mean, since he's left Oregon, he's absolutely done nothing. I mean, he went to Philadelphia, and then he went back.
He had a good first year with Philly, and then he made too many trades. He got rid of too many of the guys trying to bring in the right guys, and he made a couple trades too many, a couple drops and adds too many, and ruined what he had working at Philadelphia. But, yeah, it hasn't been good since he came back to the college game.
Are you interrupting me on purpose,
There is
Matty
one
B?
thing he's done, though, Felix.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I didn't
I'm
hear
sorry,
you talking.
Felix. There's one thing that he's done. He's made his bank account bigger.
Yeah. Matty B, are you interrupting me on purpose? You're not letting me finishing my statements. I was just wondering.
No, I think the audio's cutting out on my end. I thought you finished your
I
statement.
see.
Sorry, Felix.
So you've had a lot of coffee this morning down in the Big Easy, Matty B? I mean, you're pretty percolated right now. Huh? What'd you have? Did you have some voodoo coffee down there from New Orleans?
I plead the fifth.
All right. All right, Bob Hutton, you saw the games. You started Tuesday. You did your work. Everybody's reading, crunching numbers, getting information, trying to figure out the edge, trends, what have you. And you can do it any way you want. I want to congratulate you, Bob. You've just been splendid. Last Saturday, you were outrageous. On Sunday, I mean, anybody who took Detroit over the Chargers needs to be statuized. And so we put a statue of Bob Hutton inside the studio here at WS Radio. Now, you had some great games. You had the Cowboys that were victorious. You had the Detroit Lions. I think that you had three more along the way. I can't remember because my mind has not been percolated yet. But congratulations. A good team effort here. We have good information. We're here Saturday and Sunday. We're trying to find ways in which you can win. If you listen to this radio program and you have a game that you want to talk about, you can email us, and you can email me at felixfromdelmar@gmail.com. That'll be our line here, felixfromdelmar@gmail.com. Now, Hut, Tommy D and I talking about it, walking upstairs, I said, this isn't as sexy as it was like last week, this card, the docket, but, there's some games that merit attention. What game?
I liked it. I like the card.
You did? Well, congratulations for you.
Yeah,
I would
like
like
the
it
card,
too.
yeah.
I mean, when you're winning, you like everything, okay? I mean, why would you not like the card, okay? I mean, like, you're like 21-9, okay, out of the 30 selections. So I don't know what percentage that would be. You would probably be good. That's like almost 60%, I think, isn't it?
It's over 60.
Yeah.
Yeah, about 68 and 70%.
All right, good. Thanks for that, Matty B, and thanks for interrupting me again. All right, so now let me tell you this. All right, Bob Hutton. Bob Hutton, where would the game be for you that jumped off the page?
Okay, well, let me go through some of the things I like. I looked at Central Florida and Pitt. Central Florida is coming into the game 3-0. They got a two-headed monster, Dylan Gabriel and Brandon Winbush, which comes from Notre Dame. UCF, they trashed a beat-up Stanford team last week. But UCF is 4-23 on the road against Power 5 conferences. And they're laying, sometimes you can see somewhere around 11 and 12 today, somewhere. That number's bouncing around a little bit. And they have 8 returning starters on offense and a surprisingly effective defense with 5 starters back. And they've got UConn next week. I'm leaning on, or I really like Pitt today. The reason I like Pitt, I think Pat Narduzzi is a very, very good head coach and a defensive guru. And they're led by Kenny Pickett at quarterback, and they probably should have beat Penn State at Penn State last week. They played a very good defensive game. They have 6 starters back on defense. They're led by cornerback Jackson, defensive end Weaver. Pitt probably, like I said, they should have beat the Nittany Lions last week. They've played tougher schedule so far than UCF. They played an underrated Virginia team, and obviously they played Penn State. They have Delaware next week. I see this as a big, big game for Pitt. And we know that Narduzzi can go ahead and coach up a defense. And I think today that number is just too big, and I think Pitt will play within the number.
You know, the only thing about this game that, I'm from Pittsburgh, as you all know, and I'm trying to get, a feel for the Panthers football program, where it's gone. Remember the Wisconsin coach took the job, and then he took it for 1 year, and then he left. I think he's the head coach of Wisconsin right now, if I stand correct. And then Narduzzi was an assistant to Michigan State. I think he was the defensive coordinator at Michigan State, if I stand correct. And Matty B, you can correct me if I'm wrong in that. That game against Penn State might have taken a lot out of Pittsburgh, because most of my friends who are from the Burgh and text me and that are listening to the radio program and are following along said Pittsburgh should have beat Penn State. What's your take, Matty B?
You could say they should have beat Penn State, but considering the shellackings they've taken at the hands of Penn State in the years past.
Hey, look, dude, hold on, dude. I don't want to hear about years past. I want to hear about last week, okay? Because you know what? That's how they did do. It's not how they're going to do. That's like the racing form, okay? So stay current with me. Talk to me. I mean, the program's been down. I mean, what are you going to kick the Pitt Panthers when they're down, Matty B? Or what do you think you're going to get away with it on?
I wasn't kicking them at all. I wasn't kicking them at all.
You said, oh, yeah, you said the Penn State really, and they did take care of them quite well. But last week, I didn't get the chance to see the game, but what I heard was that, and Bob Hutton, reconfirmed it, that the Pitt Panthers should have beat Penn State last year. Now you made me lose my train of thought, Matty B. So Narduzzi comes from Michigan.